The chamber was vast, carved from black stone that seemed to drink in the light. Torches of pale blue flame flickered in iron sconces, their glow bending strangely, as if afraid of what they illuminated. In the very center of this alien hall stood a lone figure, thin, calm, and unmistakably human. His name was Elias Brand. He wore no armor, bore no weapon, carried only a simple cloak over his shoulders. To the countless eyes of the Velan assembly, this made him appear weak. But Elias had crossed the endless dark not to threaten, but to speak. He was Earth's envoy, chosen not for his strength of body but for his strength of heart. He stood before the throne of High Chancellor Vorath, whose insectile form towered over all others. The Chancellor's many eyes reflected Elias like shards of glass, cold and unblinking. Around the throne, alien senators muttered in their sibilant tongues, debating whether this fragile being was worthy of their time. "You come unarmed, soft blood," Vorath's voice clicked, sharp as steel on stone. "You claim your world desires peace with the Dominion, yet your people expand like wildfire. Why should we not extinguish you now?" Elias's hands trembled, but he did not hide them. He took one steady breath, feeling the weight of Earth behind him. Billions of lives, fragile yet unyielding. "Because," he said softly, "our history is proof of what we seek. We are not conquerors by nature, though we have fought wars. We are not saints, though we strive to grow kinder. What makes us human is our hope. Even in ruin we rise. Even in grief we forgive. We wish to share this hope with you." The assembly hissed and chattered. Some laughed, mocking the strange warmth in his voice. To them, mercy was weakness and hope was foolishness. But Elias did not bow his head. He stood as the embodiment of every mother who had lost a son to war, every farmer who had tilled the soil after fire, every child who looked at the night sky and dared to dream. Vorath leaned forward, mandibles scraping against one another. "Hope is dust. Dominion is iron, and iron does not bend to dust." At a signal, 2 guards stepped from the shadows, towering Velan warriors clad in obsidian armor. They carried spears that glowed with captured plasma. Elias's heart hammered in his chest, but he did not step back. "I am not here to bend you," he said. "I am here to ask you to stand beside us." Silence fell. For a moment it seemed as though something flickered in Vorath's alien gaze, a curiosity, a hesitation, but then it vanished. The Chancellor raised one jagged claw. "Earth is a spark. Sparks are dangerous. They ignite flame. Flame consumes. And so, sparks must be crushed." The order was given. The guard seized Elias. His cloak slipped from his shoulders, falling soundlessly upon the stone. His eyes, though filled with fear, still held the quiet fire of his conviction. He looked not at his captors but beyond, to the thought of his world, his people, his family waiting across the stars. He spoke only once more, his voice steady. "If you kill me, you will not silence us. You will awaken us." The plasma spears struck. Light flared. The human envoy fell. The chamber grew quiet. The assembly expected despair. Instead, they felt something they could not name, a stirring unease like the first tremor before a storm. For in that moment, in the far distance of the galaxy, Earth had not yet heard what had been done. But when it did, the stars themselves would tremble. The news did not arrive on wings of silence. It arrived as a shattering scream across the void. When Elias Brand's execution was broadcast, the Valens thought it would be a lesson. Their ships carried the transmission deliberately, seeding it across trade routes, scattering it like dark seeds into the communication nets that linked 1,000 stars. They wanted the galaxy to see humanity humiliated, to see Earth's envoy cut down like a weed in the field of dominion. But the signal reached Earth too. In the sprawling city of Solus Prime, where towers of steel and glass pierced the sky, the people gathered before immense hollow screens. Families, workers, soldiers, children, faces from every nation and every language stood still as the flickering image unfolded. The alien chamber, the envoy in his cloak, his final words. The blinding flare, the crowd gasped, some cried out and some turned away in disbelief. But no one forgot. In a quiet house overlooking the sea, Anna Brand, Elias's younger sister, watched with shaking hands. She had begged him not to go. She had told him the galaxy was cruel, that no words could soften the hearts of tyrants. Yet Elias had gone anyway, smiling as though he carried the whole world in his chest. And now he was gone. Anna pressed her forehead to the glass window. Tears traced down her cheeks. Yet inside her sorrow was something sharper, heavier, a resolve beginning to form like iron cooling into shape. In the great council chamber of the United Earth Directorate, silence reigned after the broadcast. Leaders of every nation sat in grim stillness. No one spoke, for they all understood. For decades, Earth had risen from its own wounds, clawing its way through famine, war, and ruin, choosing unity when division would have been easier. Elias Brand had been their symbol, their living promise to the galaxy, and now he had been slain, not in secret but before all. Finally, the chairwoman of the Directorate, Leora Dane, stood. She was old, her hair silver as moonlight, but her voice was unshaken. "The Valens believe they have silenced us," she said, her words carrying like a bell through the chamber. "They believe they have taught us fear. But I tell you, this is the last time Earth will kneel. They have taken our envoy. They have spilled the blood of one who came with open hands. And for that we rise." The chamber erupted, not with chaos but with a fierce and burning unity. Across the planet, the message spread. Factories that once built harvest machines shifted to forge ships of steel. Young men and women lined before recruiters, not with reckless joy but with solemn determination. Engineers whispered designs for weapons that might pierce the unpierceable armor of the Valens. And in every heart, grief hardened into resolve. Yet it was not vengeance alone that stirred Earth. It was something deeper. Elias's last words echoed in every ear. "If you kill me, you will not silence us. You will awaken us." And awaken they did. Even in their anger, humanity did not abandon the flame of hope he had carried. They would fight, yes, but they would fight not to dominate, but to prove that their spirit could not be broken. That even against the coldest of empires they would remain human, compassionate, unyielding, alive. In a hidden base carved beneath the mountains, Admiral Kael Rowan stood before a map of stars. His jaw was firm, his eyes shadowed by years of service. He had fought in battles before, but never for something like this. Never for the very soul of his people. He turned to his officers. "We will not strike blindly," he said. "We will not become what they expect. But make no mistake, Earth will answer, and the galaxy will remember this day, not for our envoy's death, but for the fire it lit in us all." In the darkness between worlds, the storm began to gather. Ships stirred in their docks. Engines roared awake. Humanity, so often dismissed as fragile, prepared to rise as one. And in the silence of the stars, Elias Brand's final words seemed to echo once more, carried on every heart. "You will awaken us." The shipyards of Earth had always been places of quiet industry, humming with the steady rhythm of creation. But now they thundered with urgency. Sparks flew like stars, welding torches roared, and engines shuddered awake. Vessels that had once been built for exploration or commerce were reforged into ships of war. Above the oceans, vast orbital rings glowed as fleets were assembled piece by piece. The air itself seemed alive with the sound of engines igniting, hulls being tested, and voices calling orders across steel decks. And still, at the heart of this storm, humanity remembered Elias Brand. His name was spoken in whispers and in shouts, in prayer and in command. He was not forgotten. He was the spark that lit this fire, and every hammer strike in the shipyard seemed to echo with his voice. "You will awaken us." Admiral Kael Rowan walked the length of the command deck of the Resolute Dawn, Earth's first warship built after the Envoy's death. It was massive, a spear of iron and light, bristling with weapons but also carrying shields and systems designed to protect rather than destroy. Kael rested one hand against the railing as he looked at the bustling crew below. Many were young, too young. Some whispered, but their faces shone with the same steady fire. He turned to his second-in-command, Commander Alina Siran, a sharp-eyed officer with a calmness that steadied even the most anxious crew. "They will come for us," Alina said quietly. "Yes," Kael answered. "And when they do, we must be ready, not just to fight but to endure." "Endure?" she asked. Kael's gaze was distant. The Valens believe war is only about crushing enemies. For us, it must be more. Elias died offering peace. If we forget that, we dishonor him. Alina nodded, though the weight of his words pressed heavily. For every soul aboard, the line between survival and vengeance was thin as a blade. On Earth, Anna Brand stood among a sea of new recruits. She had not chosen the life of a soldier. She was an artist, her world made of paints and colors. But her brother's death had changed her path. She wore the uniform now, not because she loved war, but because she could not bear to do nothing. In training, when asked why she had joined, she spoke with quiet conviction. Because my brother believed words could change the galaxy. If they will not listen to words, then they will listen to what we become together. Her voice carried, and those who heard it carried her conviction in their own hearts. She did not know it, but already she had become a symbol, just as Elias had been. Meanwhile, far across the stars, the Valens learned of Earth's preparations. Reports filtered into Chancellor Vorath's throne chamber. Fleets rising, factories alive, humans uniting instead of collapsing in fear. Vorath listened in silence, his many eyes glittering with irritation. The Envoy's death had not broken humanity, it had forged them. They are insects, one senator hissed. They scurry when threatened. Crush them quickly. Vorath raised one claw, silencing the chamber. No, they are not insects. They are something else. I have seen fire before. It consumes until only ash remains, but this feels different. For the first time in his long reign, the Chancellor felt a thread of uncertainty. He had meant to extinguish a spark. Instead, he had created a flame that spread faster than expected. Back on Earth, Admiral Kael stood before the assembled fleet captains. Their faces were solemn, their uniforms new, but their eyes shone with unshakable will. Look around you, Kael said. You are not alone. Every ship you see, every crew, every soldier, each of them carries the same purpose. We do not fight for conquest. We do not fight for glory. We fight because we were told we had no right to exist. And we will prove to the galaxy that humanity does not kneel, humanity does not break, humanity rises. A cheer thundered through the chamber. Not wild, not reckless, but steady. Determined. The storm had gathered. Soon it would break, and the galaxy, long accustomed to the cold dominion of empires, was about to learn what it meant when humanity stood together. The void between stars was vast, silent, eternal. Yet silence was broken the moment two fleets met. The Dominion had sent a strike force, 50 warships armored in obsidian plating, bristling with weapons honed over centuries of conquest. They cut through the dark like blades, confident, merciless. And waiting for them at the edge of the Eridan system was humanity's newborn fleet. Only 20 ships, smaller, untested, but their hulls gleamed fresh with steel and their engines pulsed like beating hearts. At their center stood the resolute Dawn, flagship of Admiral Kael Rowan. On the command deck, Kael's voice carried steady through the comms. They come expecting us to falter. They come believing we are weak. Show them who we are. The fleet's reply was a single word, spoken in countless voices, across countless ships. Humanity. The battle began. The Dominion ships opened fire. Spears of plasma scorching through the void. Shields flared on Earth's vessels, holding barely. Shockwaves rippled across the smaller ships, but none broke formation. The humans answered with railguns that fired slugs at impossible speeds. Weapons designed in secret labs where desperate engineers whispered Elias Brand's name as they worked. The first Dominion cruiser staggered under the barrage. Its black armor cracked. For the first time in generations, Valen's steel bled light. On the resolute Dawn, Commander Alina Saran leaned over her console. Admiral, their formation is rigid. If we push the left flank, do it, Kael said without hesitation. The fleet shifted, human ships moving not with the rigid precision of machines, but with the adaptive flow of living minds. They darted, feinted, adjusted on instinct. The Dominion ships pressed hard, confident in their overwhelming numbers. But humanity fought like a wildfire, erratic, stubborn, alive. In the barracks of the Starling, one of the smaller corvettes, Anna Brand braced herself as the ship shook. She held her rifle tight, waiting in case of boarding, her heart pounding with the memory of her brother's face. Around her, other soldiers looked to her, though she did not realize it. Her quiet strength anchored them. "Remember, Elias," she whispered. The words spread, soldier to soldier, until they became a chant. "Remember, Elias." The ship's crew heard it through the walls, and their fear hardened into courage. Hours passed. The battle raged like a storm. Several human ships were gone, torn apart in fire. But among the Dominion fleet, wreckage floated as well. Black hulks that would never again darken the stars. Admiral Kael stood tall, even as sparks fell from damaged consoles. "They bleed," he said, his voice echoing across the fleet channels. "They bleed like we do. Remember this day." On the Dominion flagship, Overseer Vaith watched the chaos with growing alarm. The humans should have shattered under the first strike. Instead, they adapted. Instead, they endured. Instead, they fought with a fury that could not be measured in numbers. "They should not be capable of this," Vaith hissed. But the truth was clear. They were capable, and worse, they were rising. At last, both fleets pulled back. The Dominion retreated first, though they cloaked the order in claims of strategic withdrawal. The humans, battered but unbroken, held the field. On the deck of the Resolute Dawn, silence fell as the enemy vanished into the dark. Then slowly applause began, scattered, tentative, until it swelled into thunder. Not cheers of victory, but of survival, of proof. Kael raised his hand. "We do not celebrate death," he said. "We celebrate life. And today, life has endured." The message was broadcast back to Earth. Across the planet, people watched and wept, not only for those lost, but for the miracle that their fleet had stood. The Dominion had struck first blood, but humanity had answered. And though the stars burned cold, in every human heart there was warmth now, an ember of belief, that perhaps they truly could stand against the darkness. The first clash had ended, but the war was only beginning. The fleet limped home. Engines sputtered, hulls scarred, and silence filled the corridors where voices had once laughed. Though they had won the first clash, victory had not come without a price. In the docking rings above Earth, the Resolute Dawn settled into place. Repair crews swarmed its sides, but inside the wounds ran deeper. Rows of stretchers lined the medbay. Soldiers lay still, some murmuring, some silent forever. Admiral Kael Rowan walked among them, his boots heavy on the deck. He stopped at each bed, speaking to the wounded, listening to their pain, gripping their hands when words failed. He was a commander, but in moments like this, he felt the unbearable weight of fatherhood, for these were not just soldiers. They were sons and daughters, brothers and sisters, each life entrusted to his command. At one bed, a young technician reached up, his hand trembling. "Admiral, did we win?" Kael knelt, his stern voice softening. "Yes, because of you." "Because of all of you." The boy smiled faintly before drifting into sleep. Kael remained a moment longer, his jaw tight, before rising again. Victory had a cost, and its weight rested squarely on his shoulders. On Earth's surface, Anna Brand stood before a monument that had risen in Solus Prime. It was simple, a stone wall etched with names, already countless after only a single battle. Her brother's name had been carved there too, though his loss had begun all of this. Families gathered, laying flowers, lighting candles. The air was thick with grief. Anna placed her hand against the cold stone, her throat aching. She felt the eyes of others on her, civilians, soldiers, children. Some whispered her name, as though she had inherited Elias's mantle without ever asking for it. A little girl stepped forward, clutching a scrap of cloth sewn into the shape of a star. She tugged Anna's sleeve. "Miss, will we be safe?" Anna knelt, her tears blurring the child's face. She wanted to promise safety. She wanted to promise peace. But she could not lie. So instead, she pressed the star back into the girl's hands and whispered, "We will endure. Like my brother said, we rise. Always." The child nodded, her small fingers gripping the star tighter. In the council chambers of the United Earth Directorate, voices clashed. Some leaders demanded stronger weapons, swifter retaliation. Others urged caution, warning of the Dominion's vast power. The debate raged, but all fell silent when Chairwoman Leora Dane stood. "Do not forget why this began," she said. "They executed Elias Brand because he offered peace. We must fight, yes, but not as conquerors. If we lose sight of that, then we lose what makes us human." Her words echoed in the chamber, steady as stone. Yet even she knew, the longer the war stretched, the harder it would be to hold to humanity's ideals. Far away, in the throne chamber of Chancellor Vorath, reports of the battle arrived. The overseer knelt, shame heavy in his voice. "They fought like no enemy we have faced. They adapt, they endure. And Chancellor, they inspire. Even in loss, their strength grows." Vorath's mandibles scraped against one another in thought. "Then we will bleed them dry. Hope cannot last forever. We will grind it from them." But even as he spoke, a shadow of unease gnawed at him, for he had seen the look in the human envoy's eyes before his death, a fire he had dismissed as foolishness. Yet that same fire now spread through an entire species. Back on Earth, Anna returned to training. Her hands blistered from the rifle. Her muscles ached from endless drills, but she did not falter. Each night she lay awake, hearing her brother's last words in the silence of her heart. And in orbit above her, Kael Rowan stood at the bridge window of the Resolute Dawn, staring into the endless dark. He knew the Dominion would not stop. They would come again in greater numbers with greater fury, and he would have to lead his people through storms darker than any they had ever known. The weight of war pressed upon them all, yet beneath that weight, humanity's resolve only grew harder, sharper, unbreakable. The first clash had proven they could fight. Now they would have to prove they could endure the endless tide that followed. The Dominion struck again, as Kael Rowan had known they would. This time not with 50 ships, but with 200. An armada of black steel swept into the Luthian sector, their shadows blotting out the stars. The Valons expected Earth's newborn fleet to scatter. They expected fear. They expected silence, but they did not expect ingenuity. In the war room of the Resolute Dawn, holograms of enemy formations floated above the table. Officers spoke quickly, tension sharp in their voices. "They'll overwhelm us in hours," one captain said. "They want us to meet them head-on," another added. "We can't win like that." Admiral Kael raised his hand, silencing the room. His eyes narrowed, steady and unshaken. "We will not meet them head-on. We will make them fight where they are weakest. We will fight like humans," meaning? Commander Alina Saran asked. Kael leaned forward, pointing at the hologram. "Their formations are rigid. They rely on overwhelming force. But the Luthian belt, dense fields of asteroids and ion storms, will break their lines. They think of it as an obstacle. For us it will be cover. For them it will be a graveyard." Murmurs spread, but resolve quickly followed. Humanity would not face the Dominion's strength with equal strength. They would use wit, speed, and the chaos of nature itself. The fleet slid into the asteroid belt, engines low, shadows swallowing their presence. Anna Brand sat strapped in her dropship, rifle across her lap. She had trained for months, but this was her first true mission, a boarding strike. Her hands shook, but she pressed them against her knees until the tremors steadied. She whispered her brother's words as if they were a prayer. "We rise." When the Dominion armada arrived, the trap was sprung. Railguns blazed from the shadows. Missiles streaked from hidden craters. Human ships weaved through the asteroids like hunters in a forest, striking, vanishing, striking again. The Dominion's massive cruisers fired blindly, their blasts colliding with rock and storm, tearing apart the very field that concealed their enemy. On the Resolute Dawn, alarm screamed, but Kael's voice cut through the noise. "Keep them guessing. Never let them find our heart." In the chaos, Anna's squad launched. Their dropship clamped onto the side of a Dominion destroyer. With a hiss of air, the hatch blew open and humans poured inside. The corridors were dark and alien, stinking of metal and ozone. Valan warriors rushed to meet them, their insectile forms armored and towering. But humanity fought with desperation sharpened into skill. Anna fired, her shots finding cracks in their carapace. For every comrade who fell, 3 Valans followed. At the heart of the destroyer, Anna planted the charge. As alarms howled, she looked up at the stars through a narrow viewport. "This is for Elias," she whispered and pressed the detonator. The ship erupted in a blossom of fire, shattering through the belt. The battle raged for hours.
Humanity lost ships, yes, dozens.
But the Dominion lost more. Their rigid formations crumbled in the chaos. Their superior numbers became a liability. Ships colliding in the storms, tearing each other apart in confusion. When at last the enemy retreated, limping back into the void, the Luthian belt was littered with wreckage. Human ships, battered and broken, drifted among it, but still alive. Still standing, on the resolute dawn, Kael's crew erupted in exhausted cheers. Alina turned to him, a rare smile breaking through her calm. "Admiral, we've done the impossible." Kael's eyes were shadowed but steady. "No, we've shown them the truth. We are not fragile. We are not prey. We are human, and we will never bow." The victory rang across the stars. Worlds that had once ignored Earth now watched with awe. Whispers spread through oppressed colonies of the Dominion. Whispers of defiance, whispers of humanity's fire. For the first time, the Valen Dominion felt the ground beneath them shift. Their empire, unshaken for centuries, trembled, and far beyond the edge of the galaxy, where Elias Brand's name was still spoken in reverence, a storm of hope began to spread. The tide was turning, but the cost of turning tides was never light, and the heaviest battles were yet to come. The Dominion gathered its full might. From across the galaxy, fleets converged, an ocean of black steel and fire. Their intent was clear: to crush humanity once and for all, to prove that defiance was futile. At Earth, preparations reached their end. Shipyards glowed red from endless labor. Factories ran without pause. Across every continent, people stood ready, not only soldiers but farmers, healers, builders, all offering what they could. This was no longer one world's war. It was humanity itself rising as one. Admiral Kael Rowan stood before his fleet, now greater than ever before. The scars of past battles marked their hulls, but those scars had become their strength. "This is not just a fight for survival," he told them. "This is a fight for who we are." Elias Brand believed in peace, and so do we. But peace cannot bloom in chains. Today we stand not only for Earth but for every world that has forgotten how to hope. Today we light the flame. His words spread across every channel, every ship, every soldier. In the silence that followed, the fleet moved. The battle began at the edge of Sol's system, near the orbit of Jupiter. The Dominion descended in waves, blotting out the stars. Humanity met them head-on. The clash was unlike any before. Dominion dreadnoughts unleashed torrents of plasma, scouring the void. Human ships answered with storms of railfire and missiles that danced like swarms of light. Asteroids shattered, moons trembled. Even Jupiter's great storms seemed to flare brighter as fire filled the heavens. Anna Brand fought aboard the Starling's sister ship, the Aurora. Her squad breached enemy hulls, cutting their way into towering cruisers. She had grown into her role, no longer the grieving sister but a leader whose courage lit others. Through smoke and fire, her voice carried, "For Elias. For Earth." Each time she spoke, those around her pushed harder, fought longer, refused to fall. Admiral Kael's strategy was daring. He let the Dominion press into the system, pulling them closer, stretching their lines. When the enemy thought Earth's fleet cornered, Kael gave the order. "Now, light the flame." Hidden platforms across the system powered up. Stations disguised as mining colonies revealed rail batteries. Civilian freighters dropped their covers, releasing swarms of drones. From the shadows of moons and asteroid belts, weapons humanity had kept in reserve unleashed their fire. The Dominion Armada, confident of its dominance, suddenly found itself engulfed. It was not merely a battle, it was a symphony of defiance. Every shot, every maneuver, every sacrifice sang the same message. We will not kneel, but victory did not come without sacrifice. Ships fell. Names were carved into eternity in the fire of their destruction. Among them, the Aurora, Anna Brand's last transmission, came through the crackling static of battle. Her face was scarred with smoke, but her eyes blazed with the same fire Elias had once carried. "To my people, remember us. Remember why we fight. This is not an end. It is a beginning." The transmission cut off as the Aurora vanished in a burst of light, taking 3 Dominion cruisers with it. Kael closed his eyes, grief pressing into him like a blade. Yet he gave the only order he could: press on. For Anna, for Elias, for all of us. At last the Dominion fleet broke, not shattered, not utterly destroyed, but broken in spirit. For every loss humanity had suffered, they had given back twice as fiercely. And more than that, they had shown the galaxy something the Dominion had never understood. That hope is stronger than fear. The Valans retreated, their chancellor silent. Their empire, once unchallenged, now trembled with the cracks of rebellion. Oppressed worlds looked to the stars and whispered the name of Earth. When the fires dimmed and the wreckage drifted in the void, Kael Rowan stood once more at the bridge of the resolute dawn. His voice was tired but unbroken. We have paid dearly, too dearly. But know this: humanity has not only survived. Humanity has awakened, and the galaxy will never again forget who we are. On Earth, the names of the fallen were etched into monuments that rose skyward, shining under the sun. Among them stood Elias and Anna Brand, brother and sister, two sparks who had become the flame of a people. Children grew up hearing their stories. Songs were written, oaths were sworn, the memory of their sacrifice carried forward, not as sorrow alone, but as strength. And across the stars, wherever hope stirred in the hearts of the oppressed, one name was spoken with reverence: humanity, not conquerors, not subjects, but a people who had shown the galaxy what it meant to rise from the edge of despair and burn brighter than the stars themselves. The Envoy had fallen. The war had scarred, but in the end Elias's words proved true. If you kill me, you will not silence us. You will awaken us.